Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Tonight on Houselights, we continue the wing of Batman with Zack Snyder's DCEU Batman, starting with Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice from 2016, in which Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne has spent 20 years getting jacked, paranoid, and heavily armed, and decides to kill the flying alien man with a spear. It's operatic, it's a little unhinged, it gives us the single greatest mother name confusion moment in franchise history, and yes, we're going to talk about it. Then we follow into Zack Snyder's Justice League, the 4-hour cut that exists because the internet simply would not let this go, in which Snyder got his footage, his budget, and all the time in the world to finally tell the story the way he wanted. Whatever you think of the length, this is a guy who got a genuinely rare do-over and swung for the fences with it. With me, who never owns a gun except for every single vehicle he's made, Darren Moser. And playing a tatted-up polar plunger who has Icelandic women fawning all over him while sniffing his sweaters, John Mills. Wing of Batman means Affleck's Batman is criminally underrated. The Knightmare sequences are the strongest and most fun thing Snyder ever put in a superhero movie, and somehow we got a black and white 4-hour cut that half the internet insists is the quote-unquote definitive version. Let's suit up, summon a Justice League that doesn't actually assemble, and give Snyder's Batman the credit it deserves while laughing at the parts that absolutely earned it. This is Houselights.
Yes. Bravo. Bravo, good sir. Bravo. Yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward to this, guys, because
I am too.
I have had quite a journey with these movies myself, and it's always fun to revisit them as a result. Had a very famous falling out with somebody about Batman v Superman when it first came out. And, you know, we're fine. We're fine. It was a moment in time. It was very cute. It was a lot of fun. But yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. Darren, you're looking forward to it too, right?
Yeah, it's so funny because it's like you said it, Tristan. It's DCEU, and so it kind of lives in its own little bubble.
Yeah,
and because they are Batman movies, but they're the most ensemble Batman movies I've ever seen. But it's going to be an interesting time. Also, like you said, the guns are so interesting because, you know, he's just driving around the Batmobile like, we're just killing people. We're just straight up killing people. Like there's a couple of shots where like we hit the car and it flips. We're like, okay, they're dead.
We are
They're
less
so
than
dead.
3 minutes in.
Yeah.
But listen, okay.
Rip off that Band-Aid. Here we go.
Rip off the Band-Aid, and here's where I'll throw the first flag. Keaton murdered people, and nobody blinks an eye. Okay, this whole thing.
No, not just Keaton. Every single live-action Batman, including Adam West, has killed people theatrically
and smiled while doing there's this whole thing where the whole Batman doesn't kill thing is because the animated series had that rule. Obviously, they're not going to rate a TVY 7 if he's killing people. But additionally, you have Nolan basing his Batman on Superman. And that skewed everybody's perception of the Bat afterward. And Batman's always been, quote unquote, okay. Like if it needs to get done, he'll do it. And I still think with the Nolan Batman, I love the parody. Patton Oswalt played the Penguin in this little bit.
Yes.
And, he's like, I don't kill people. And he throws the batarang and it like goes to the guy's face. And Penguin's like, oh my God, you killed him. He's like, no, he's just sleeping. And it's like, because that's the whole thing. We're like, oh, Batman doesn't kill. I'm like, at least one of the League of Shadows is dead. At least one of them is dead from their injuries.
I think that's the thing is that like when you open up Batman Begins, he burns the entire house, like Raz's house down, and it explodes while people are flying around and no one bats an eye. But then the moment he says, I'm not going to save you, Ra's al Ghul, then people are like, oh, you're a murderer. I'm like, he was a murderer at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, that whole thing, it's not the problem, I think, is that Snyder, whether people are going to say this is a fair sort of criticism or not, Snyder doesn't just acknowledge that the Batman's going to kill when he has to do it. Snyder's Batman seems to relish the opportunity to decimate people. And but the thing is, we never get Snyder's Batman when he's happy Batman. There is no happy Batman, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
I know what you mean.
When we encounter him, he's the Dark Knight Batman.
He's done. He's over it. He's
20 years in Gotham.
He's branding the criminals and then just letting the system take its course. Like,
okay, here's the thing, and I know this is an oxymoron, but if Snyder showed a modicum of restraint, I know I can hear everybody laughing who's listening to this.
Oh, yes.
If Snyder showed just a modicum of restraint and toned down the Batmobile chase.
Yes.
And didn't have the Batwing blow up that dude in the car and just left the ultraviolence to the warehouse scene, I think people would be absolutely okay with it. I really do. I think the branding and the ultraviolence, I think, was permissible because we're dealing with a different kind of Batman. We're dealing with a supremely jaded, broken bat. And even though he's not directly killing them, he's allowing them to be killed, which should be just as bad according to the mythos. But then, like we're seeing him run the Batmobile over cars and they're right over the driver's heads. And you're just like, good Lord, like he's not even trying. And so it's just, I feel like you could if you just toned it down, it could still be an awesome scene, but if you just toned it down, people would get off their back. People would get off his back. But the thing is, Snyder himself doesn't really help the situation when he opens his mouth.
Also true.
He puts his foot in his mouth so often during interviews. We're like as a fan of his work, I keep trying to defend some of these things but not to the extent that some other people do. But then he just opens his mouth in an interview, and I'm just like, okay, you got to meet me halfway here, Zach.
Right. He's the friend you're defending, and then that friend says something stupid while they're drunk at a party, and you're like, okay, yeah, like you wish. Listen, Snyder's vision of the Bat is valid.
Mm-hmm.
And the setup in Batman v Superman, and I'll go ahead and say it. Anybody who's heard me talk about this before, I apologize. I know this seems repetitive. I despise the theatrical cut. Still do to this day. I will never watch the theatrical cut again. When we came back for this rewatch, I accidentally, because I have the copies, right? And it was on my Apple TV library, and I was going along.
Because they give you both and they're separate entries on Apple TV. Yeah.
They're separate entries, except this time, I don't know whether they changed something about the interface. I chose Ultimate Edition, and I'm going along, and it got to Lois in the desert scene. And then I knew what was missing, and I was like, whoa, hold on. No. I was like, this scene's... and I had to go back and restart because I was like, I can't even have the theatrical version of this scene in my brain because it almost caused me an aneurysm. Like that, there are very few movies where I will react so instantaneously to wrong version. Nope, not going to watch this. Not going to watch this. And it's nuts because I just don't know what Warner Brothers was thinking in making him cut it down. They got cold feet because of Marvel.
They got cold feet at the last minute because apparently what happened is that he showed the Ultimate Edition to the execs. And they of course, I read this, who knows if it's true. But they loved it so much, and they loved Affleck's portrayal so much that they extended his one-picture deal to 3 for standalone Batman films. They're like, we're not just giving you a standalone Batman film, we're giving you a trilogy. This was amazing. But you're right, John, they got cold feet. Something happened around that time, and Marvel was doing really well, and Marvel was just filled with like jokey and kitschy and light, bright colors and everything like that. And they're just like, okay, well, we can't redo Batman v Superman, but maybe we can cut it down. Like maybe we can make it more palatable to the masses. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
We got a watered down version. Now, Darren, did you see this in theaters or what was the first version you saw?
No, I saw it in theaters, and I mean, it's the big movie, and it's got Batman in it, and it's, it looked really cool. I mean, I don't want to talk about the theatrical version, just like John, but it's, yeah. But yeah, I want to talk about the 9/11, not 9/11 opening of placing this in the destruction from the Superman movie was such a brilliant idea. Like it cemented Bruce Wayne's arc. Without that, Bruce Wayne doesn't make or Batman doesn't make any sense in his direction. But being on the ground, and when you're sitting there seeing from the outside your building being sliced up, by heat vision of two Supermen fighting to the death. Like, yeah, I get it. That would turn anyone against Superman to be like, you got to be checked. You got to be reined in. The collateral damage. And it's so funny because we start to see that around this time theatrically in movies where, Transformers does it. Like all these movies do it where, the collateral damage starts to get ridiculous, where you're like, okay, you're literally killing tens of thousands of people. Or you throw in a simple, they kind of did this in the other one where they're like, oh, good thing it's nighttime and the city's core is basically empty. I'm like, really?
They really overcorrected.
Yeah.
Because Snyder got so much heat, deservedly so much heat with Man of Steel final ending, where they just decimate Metropolis, and just like, I can't even imagine the collateral damage that came from that. And it got to the point where, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time with Man on Steel, but like it got to the point where you're just like, this is boring. This much destruction is boring, because it's just a CGI fight fest, and you're just like, all you're thinking about is just all the innocent lives that are dying. And so it would have been film malfeasance if he didn't address that. But
see, this is the thing, is it really is all in how you paint it, in all, how you light it, how you cut it. Avengers, you go to the fight in New York, it's destruction on a similar level with the alien invasion. The difference is that Joss Whedon keeps the color cranked up and makes sure to show us civilians running out of the way, being like, I'm okay. If you really think about it logically, no, they're not. Like, they're getting wiped out on the same scale. Snyder never took that minute. The crowd stuff that we saw was realistic. Where Perry's like staying there with like, listen, people beat up the Metropolis fight all that you want to, but there's that beautiful moment of Man of Steel where Perry just won't leave. It's Jenny Olsen, and she's trapped, and he just won't leave her, even though he knows it's going to mean his death. That's such a beautiful, beautiful moment. I think that what Snyder gets heat for is Snyder's the one that came in and he's like, no, this is exactly what happened in Avengers. It's just, I'm trying to make it a quote unquote real movie. But to his credit, Batman v Superman opening that way, I still think is one of the most beautiful openings to an action movie I've ever seen. Like I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, I'm in for something special.
And when they show Bruce run into the destruction.
Yep.
That right there is a clincher. He just doesn't hesitate. He's not worried about how it looks. He is Batman in that moment, just wearing Bruce Wayne clothes. Mm-hmm. And it's very apparent. And you see the anger on his face, like his friends, his coworkers are dying. He saved a little girl whose mother is clearly dead. And then you see that pull out.
Yeah.
And it's Wayne Financial. It was one of his buildings. But that it's not like he was angry because his building went down. He's angry because of all of his friends, his coworkers went down. And I loved that moment when he's talking to Alfred in the Batcave, and he's like, if there is even a 1% chance.
Do you realize I actually quote that all the time when I tell my kids about when they have to be careful, or when I'm at work and I know something could go wrong, I will say exactly, I will go, if there's even a 1% chance that this can go wrong, I have to treat it as an absolute. Like, I know I butchered the line just now or whatever, but like, it's when you really think about it, you're like, yeah, in that moment, you can understand why Bruce Wayne would be like, I'm not going to wait for this guy to like, oh, I'm sorry, he's just a nice guy. Like, and the thing is, you know what? I'll throw myself on the fire right now. I like Jesse Eisenberg's Luthor. It was different. It was timely. It's all tech, right, bro. I like it. I will always like it. Everybody else can go to hell who disagrees with me. So there you go.
Let's talk about it.
Yes.
Okay. So you nailed it. It's tech, bro. He's clearly a tech bro of that time. I think he's very much the Zuckerberg and flip-flops.
Yes.
But like, as if it was made today, even by Snyder, I don't think it would be Zuckerberg and flip-flops. I think it would be Zuckerberg in front of the Senate committee.
Yeah.
And I think it's very much the billionaire of its time. Like a lot has happened in the past 10 years. A lot has happened in the tech landscape and the political landscape and everything like that. And I think for what Snyder was going for, he clearly nailed it, what he was going for. But I think to me, he's not Lex Luthor. He's just not. He's a character that has a Lex Luthor name, but it's not Lex Luthor. Just like how Cheney in Dune, in Villeneuve's Dune, she's not Cheney. She's just a character. She's a completely different character with Cheney's name. Doesn't mean that it's a bad character. Doesn't mean that Zendaya did a bad job. She's just not Cheney. And it's the same thing with Luthor. Like, this is not Luthor in any way, shape, or form that we've ever seen him in the comics or any kind of stories. And if you like it, that's fine. I'm not saying it's invalid, but it's just, I just don't get it. Like, it's just, he's the antithesis of what Luthor is and supposed to be.
I don't know that I agree with that. Because comic books, there's the constant reinvention. Like, comic book characters are that whole ship of Theseus thing writ large, where it's like, how much of that character can you pull apart? What's at the actual core? What's at the core of Lex Luthor? He's got to be some sort of, magnate, billionaire, super wealthy guy who has access to insane amounts of tech, hates Superman for whatever reason, and ultimately wants to manipulate everybody into doing what he wants. I think the trappings of Luthor, it's sort of like how, when the 89 Batman comes out, the mob had not been vanquished long enough for it to be an irrelevant reference. Like, I remember when they were busting up Gotti and everybody. That's how old I am. But when Batman comes around in 89, a really strong mafia presence in New York City, it was like, well, yeah. Right. There was nothing different about it. Whereas this is, and that Luthor sort of, that more traditional Luthor belongs to that sort of time. And I think updating him and saying, well, what would that type of person look like in today's environment? I think it's completely valid. I do.
Yeah, I think, just like any of these characters, Luthor being kind of reimagined and re-envisioned. Like, I really like the most recent Luthor we got, and the way he applied, social media and tech and controlling the narrative. Like, that was his big thing. I can't see this Luthor doing that. That was not the thing you did in that era. So Luthor being a product of our time in the moment, yeah, that tracks. I still love the animated, Luthor, but circling back for a second though to when you were talking about Tristan, what might have made them gun shy for pulling the trigger on the Ultimate Edition, because I was trying to check the dates. It's really inconclusive, because this came out, early 2016. The only movie before that is you had Age of Ultron not do quite as well, and then you had Ant-Man came in a mattering, which, so maybe that, I can't see it just being Ant-Man. Maybe a 1-2 punch of like the Avenger formula is breaking down a little bit. Age of Ultron did well, but not like amazingly well. And then Ant-Man came in with the funny and everyone loved it. I don't know. I'm not in the boardroom, but
they were still staring down the barrel. They knew Civil War was on the way, right?
Right. Civil War was May of 16.
Right. And this came out in like March, didn't it?
Yeah. Batman v Superman came out in March. So a matter of months ahead.
But when this came out, there was almost like this. I remember there were these conspiracy theories levied at the time. People were throwing out there. The critics were sitting outside and talking about how they were going to tear it down. Like people it got so weird so quickly, where everybody was convinced that
so weird about this movie.
There was this conspiracy that people were trying to take the movie apart and keep it from doing well. And it's like, no, it just hit the wrong moment in time. I think it's just bad, unfortunate timing for this movie.
And I want to talk about that a little bit, because John, you were in on this a little bit. So
yes.
So I had a journey with this movie where, like, I saw the theatrical cut and I didn't hate it. I saw the theatrical cut, didn't hate it. I walked out of the theater with my wife. I was like, hey, that was pretty good. I mean, there were some pretty ridiculous things in there. There was like, oh, Martha, that was stupid. But overall, I thought it was a really interesting direction. And my wife is like, you sure?
Right.
She's like, you sure
about that? You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
So
Yeah.
she was not convinced at all. And then I see the Ultimate Edition. I was like, oh, I was so wrong. This is so much better than the theatrical cut. Good Lord. But I had this journey with it. And then I remember when I had that realization, when I finally got to see the Ultimate Edition, I went on Letterboxd and I wrote a really long review. And I was like, you know what? Like I had some trouble with the theatrical cut, but the Ultimate Edition really changed my mind. Like this is a 4-star film. It has its faults, but like it gets all these things really right. And then this weird guy came in and said, "What faults do you mean?"
Yes.
And I said,
I remember this.
I talk about the faults in the review. He's like, "No, you didn't. You just don't get it." And I'm like, "I'm sorry." And then he gives me this.
No.
No, Joey would not be defending Batman v Superman at all.
And then he gives me this copy and paste manifesto of why Batman v Superman is a masterpiece. And then Kessel Junkie out of nowhere swoops in and says, "This is the most contentious review of a 4-star review I have ever seen."
There you go. Well, yes.
And
Kessel Junkie was right.
And that's what we're dealing with. That's the thing, is that like when I go to another film person or somebody who loves movies and I say, "Oh, I love Batman v Superman," I have to say, "But I'm not a Snyder bro." But then I have to say, "Well, I like Snyder, but I'm not a crazy person." And it sucks that I have to do that.
It's the weirdest thing because there are a lot of people I know personally who like Batman v Superman a lot. And I don't know how everything got so magnified by the people who couldn't handle it.
And tribal.
It was very, very odd. But if I want to give it, when I sit with it and I try to give it as positive a spin as possible, there's something about it that spoke so deeply to certain people that it mixed up their identity with it in such a way that like I get that sometimes, where something can mean so much to you that it's reflexive to be super defensive of it. And it's what's really difficult is that the people who get super defensive about it, like they don't realize they're doing it sometimes. And I haven't encountered actually a whole lot of people like that, but like it just gets magnified by the algorithm is what I think happens. And it's just like, I mean, I remember in 99 when everybody lost their minds on the early days of the internet about episode 1. It's the same thing. It's just more real time. It's shoved into your eyeballs instead of you having to go to a forum and finding it.
Speaking of which, because we're rounding the time on what I want to spend on Batman v Superman. So this is the wing of Batman, director focused, but yet we have yet to talk about Affleck as Batman. I was one of the first people to go, "Are you freaking kidding me? Affleck can't be Batman. That's a horrible choice." I was one of the first to say, "This is stupid. This is not going to work." And as soon as I left the theater, I was one of the first to say, "Red card on Tristan Riddell. I was wrong. He's a great Batman and a great Bruce Wayne." Darren, what did you think of the Affleck casting before and after?
Now, I mean, I was definitely open-minded, mainly because I still remembered all the reaction about Heath Ledger and Joker. And I was like, okay, like this franchise has proven it can reinvent its wheels often enough that the people that make this movie aren't dumb. They want to make a good movie. They want to have a good Batman. They're not throwing darts at a board. It's a calculated choice. And that could or couldn't pay off, but there are a likely chance that it will because, they saw something. The director, the producer, all that saw something in Affleck to pull this out. And while I was a little sad that this is probably one of the least Bruce Wayne representations, like, I mean, besides that opening shot, we barely get Bruce Wayne in this. It is so bat heavy that, I kind of miss the days of Bale, like, oh, look at all these scenes we get with our wonderful billionaire playboy philanthropist. But no, I enjoyed, what was they call him? Batfleck. And But
I love that Batfleck and Battinson. I love it.
But just little things like the voice modulation was such a great idea, rather than just talk like, now it's a meme and I talk like this.
I think that was Kevin Smith's idea. I think I read that somewhere. I could be wrong.
It was great. It, garble his voice a bit, because eventually, if you think about it, people really want to start figuring out who Batman is. Like, where is he showing up? And voice analysis. Like, there are ways to start to track him down. But all that to say, it was an interesting movie though, because while it is so heavily focused on Batman, there's a ton of Superman in it. Like, and I mean,
in this version, in the Ultimate Edition.
Yes, I know. And I know, yes, Darren, it's called Batman v Superman. They both have their names in it, but it still feels like it should be a Batman movie first. If I had to, but by the thinnest of margins, I'm not saying it's bad having both characters in it, but the last thing I'll say is just I have seen other versions of this story in animated form and other things, and there are some aspects of those that I love even more, like the fight. The fight, I think, has been done really well in comic adaptations and animated adaptations. But so I wouldn't say this is my favorite punch 'em up fight.
The animated Dark Knight Returns is really good. And if you guys
when he connects his suit to the power grid and then punches Superman, it's my favorite shot. I love that shot.
If you guys haven't seen it, look for it. It's easy to find.
I was like you, Darren, where I was like, I could see, okay, Affleck, he's a pretty guy, that sort of thing. I could see him, he's a good enough actor. I could see him as Batman. But I remember talking to my brother, who, he's 5 years older than me. So of course, as I've been reminded throughout my entire life, he was first in everything. He's the first Batman fan, first Star Wars, first everything. All I do is follow in his wake. But I reached out to him. I was like, what do you think of Affleck as Batman? And my brother was like, fantastic. This is the best choice ever. This is the best Batman casting ever in the books. He goes, look at his jaw. He looks perfect for this part. Like, my brother was like, finally they cast somebody that just naturally looks like Batman. He's like, I'm on board with this 100%. The one thing that I will always fault Snyder for is that I don't mind the whole thing of going back to a more like, they talk about how it's armor, but it looks more like just a body instead of like, the techno armor that they had with Bale, by the end of it.
Yeah.
But the fact that his suit, while at rest, is supposed to look like, it's just stretched over his enormous muscles. The fact that it has creases as if somebody's standing in fabric, like molded onto it, for some reason just drives me up a wall, and is like, who didn't sit with the director and be like, hey, this looks weird.
I've read some things with the costume designer about how they wanted it to look like fabric, like Frank Miller's Dark Knight. I never once got that inkling while watching the movie. I never once thought it was fabric.
It looked like somebody had spray painted, like somebody had sprayed fixative on it while he was wearing it or something like that. I just, and it's there are certain things with that stretch this. If it is going to be Batman focused, and I know you love the Knightmare stuff, and I love the Knightmare stuff too. I thought it was really cool
so much. I'm so glad you brought it up. I love the Knightmare stuff so much. It's my favorite part.
I would have cut it because I would have cut it.
Good.
I would have cut it for a different dream where he's reliving Robin's death or something like that, to give him more of an arc of this is why he's such a bitter douchebag, and he relives a horror. And
that's pretty good.
And the thing that I dislike about the Knightmare thing is that we have the Flash, who was recast, reaching through, be like, Bruce, Lois is the key. And like, even the first time I saw it, I was like, are you setting up a sequel already? Could we just tell this story for I'm very much a save that for the end, guys. Like, tell me this story and then jump to the setup.
Put that whole scene in the mid credits,
something like that.
Perfect. Like, why not? You literally, I mean, it does push him more towards like this Batman's him realizing Superman's gonna be a problem, but Yeah.
Nothing you're saying is wrong.
I know, but it's super cool. The Knightmare sequence is super cool. It looks great.
I think that's
It's
the
wonderful.
thing. It's just like what you said is objectively better. But the Knightmare stuff is so freaking cool. I mean, like, I know it gets a lot of hate, and because he is using guns directly, and I get it. I really do get it. But we have to remind ourselves that this is an interpretation. And this is a post-apocalyptic Batman. Okay? Society has collapsed. All right? Like, he's
There's a
dealing
giant Omega sign carved in the desert. Like,
there
we're
are
done.
parademons who are flying down and trying to swoop him up. Yeah, if I had a rifle or a 9mm pistol, yeah, I'm going to use it.
I'm just now picturing that same scene, but he's throwing tiny batarangs at the parademons. It's doing nothing. It's doing absolutely nothing. Like, what are you trying to do?
All right. Okay. All right. We got to move on. This is hard because both movies are so long. Okay, so we got to move on to Justice League.
I still haven't finished watching Justice League, and I started it 3 weeks ago, Tristan. Come on.
So this is, just so everybody knows, this is not a Whedon podcast. This is not an original Justice League original podcast. Like, this is Snyder Cut. Okay, so like we could talk ad nauseum of the behind the scenes stuff, how Whedon, lost his career over this. Like, it was a thankless job because, like, if he took it and it was a success, everybody would just give Zack Snyder credit. And if it failed, which it did, everyone blamed Whedon. I'm not saying that's a cop-out for Whedon. I'm just saying that that's the situation. And Whedon showed his ass in the process. That's all we're going to talk about it. Whedon got what was coming, and we're moving on. So, and this is someone who really, really grew up with Whedon's work. But Snyder, Justice League, that's what we're talking about. 4-hour cut. Hashtag release the Snyder Cut was huge. It was gigantic. Okay, we said that. We've moved on. It was released. He was given budget. He had terrible reasons as to why he had to leave production, and very personal reasons. He had every single right to leave production. And it's amazing that he got a redo and that he was finally able to give his vision and then some. Because the Snyder Cut we got was not the original Snyder Cut. The Snyder Cut that he had on his laptop that he talked about was way less than what he ended up doing, because once he got budget and permission, he's like, okay, I'm going to go all out. And so that's what we got. I've seen Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition and Zack Snyder's Justice League 6 times each. I don't know how, but it's for some reason like a comfort movie for me that I'll put on in the background when I'm working, because I've seen it so many times. And it's long. It's not perfect. There's a lot that can be cut. There's a lot that can be trimmed down. And I'm going to say right off the bat is that one thing that I've said as a criticism before in this podcast, I'm going to say as a benefit for this movie, is that Zack Snyder's Justice League is a series of vignettes. And I think it was very smart of him to cut it up into parts. And I don't know, I feel like John would disagree with me on this one. I'm really interested to see what you would think.
No, cutting it into parts made a lot of sense. You're absolutely right. I think
so too, because this movie is very much a collection of vignettes. It's very much, oh, yeah, you remember that time when Flash saved that girl from the car crash? Or you remember that time when the Amazonians, tried to save the mother box? You remember that time when, like that's what this movie was. It was a series of vignettes put together. So it was very smart for him to cut it up into parts because he knew what he had. Now, Darren...
Almost like issues of comics being released week after week.
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like. Yeah. It felt like not annual, but like an omnibus. It felt like an omnibus where it's just like, you get a little bit of Batman and Robin, issue 12, and then you get Detective Comics issue 27 through 30, and then you get Wonder Woman issues 5 through 6. You get all that in to tell that one story. That's what the Justice League is, in my opinion.
Well, and I feel like it's almost a bigger discussion because this movie and its runtime and its the fact that it even came together is amazing. But what I want to talk about for a second is almost the bigger discussion of the containers we put media into. I feel like, and I'm meaning specifically like television show, miniseries, theatrical release, like certain things. And especially as we're seeing a lot of like live action remakes of television shows and how things work and don't work. This movie is such an interesting case study because, could this work as a miniseries? Absolutely. Would you watch it in pieces, or would the greater audience watch it in pieces? Tune in every week. I don't know, but it's so interesting when a movie reaches such a critical mass in size that I want more. I want this to be I want them to have the platform to tell the longer story so I can enjoy all of the little bits, but I also can't see myself sitting through 4 hours in a movie theater. So it's like, that's where I wish that we would kind of swing back to the mini series, the 6-episode mini, which, I mean, we're going to be honest, there's now a full season of television. We're not going to talk about that, but maybe that's what killed the miniseries is the tiny theatrical or the small TV series. But or looking at British programming where they're like, no, we're going to tell 6-episode single arcs and then we're done. But give
6 episodes every 3 years, 5
every
years,
3
10
years, every 5 years. But give them the tools to tell something. That's all I'm saying.
But to Darren's point, I wish they would just do away with season. That they would just be like, you know what, just embrace it. Just tell your story in 6 episodes. You get 6 episodes. You don't get a season 2. Just tell it and be done. Right. And force them. You know what? You're gonna make this devil's compromise here. You get 1 season or you get nothing, and live with that. But I think that one of the things that, and I'll go back to Batman v Superman first. I don't like either in the theatrical or in the Ultimate Edition. I don't like the detour that they take where where Wonder Woman is watching the files, where it's like, look at these things. And it's like, here are these characters we're going to set up. It's like, has nothing to do with the rest of this. Nothing to do with the rest of the story.
Yeah.
I would have cut it. I would have absolutely cut it. You want to take a 3-hour movie down to 2.5 hours. You could still have everything that's great about the Ultimate Edition and do it in 2.5 hours by making some judicious cuts. Absolutely, you can do it. And we never talked about Martha, but hey. And
I just now realized that we never talked about Martha. I just want to acknowledge that that it was one of the stupidest decisions in the movie, and it makes no sense because all of a sudden he goes from, I'm going to kill you because you're a god and I cannot have gods on this planet, to I will devote my life to you and I will spend the rest of my life making up for that mistake.
It was just such a clunky way to do it. It made sense in the greater context of, he has a mom too. I get what he was going for. It was
could have been
the clunkiest
executed
way.
so much better.
Clunkiest way he could have done it.
Good
anyway,
on paper, not so
exactly
much in the pool.
You come to Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I think you see a director that has the same discipline issue in terms of what you would call, Tristan, the macro edit. If this is really a movie, first and foremost, I think it's 2 movies, because I remember when they initially announced it, they said there was going to be Justice League Part 1 and Justice League Part 2. And I can point to the exact moment in Zack Snyder's Justice League that would have ended Part 1. And it's Superman is nowhere through the movie until they show him as the little hologram at the end. And Ben Affleck has his arms crossed. And he goes, we got to bring him back. Boom, cut to credits. I would have walked out of that movie theater been like, oh, yeah.
100%.
Oh, my gosh. And I wish that there was a Zack Snyder's Justice League Part 1 and Part 2. That I honestly think that would have been a wiser release, to release a Part 1 and have everybody get stoked for Part 2. Well, let's not get crazy, because that's a whole other discussion that I don't want to go down.
If they didn't bring in Whedon and do the theatrical cut, that's what they should have done. And then, Darren, that would have answered you. That would have been a response to your, concern of who on earth is going to go to a modern theater and sit through 4 hours? Do a part 1, Part 2, and that's where you cut it. And if they didn't do the theatrical cut, I think that would have been a great way to do it. Absolutely.
And screw it, you could have done either the Lord of the Rings, release them just 12 months apart, or do 6 months apart, like Back to the Future Part 2 and Part 3 did. Don't monkey around with it. Just be like, look, we're being honest here, okay? That Part 1 comes out, and then you're going to get Part 2 in 6 months. So just, that I think would have worked. It would have worked perfectly fine, and I still think it's such a great moment where they oh God, it's so, I remember watching it for the first time and I was like, oh, there's part one. That's the end right there. You don't even need a stinger or anything like that. I think that Snyder...
Superman will return in Justice League Part 2.
Yes, Batman
And I
Day.
love that Cyborg just has that footage. Like
Right.
he just has it queued up where it's just like, yeah, this is my screensaver.
In his mind, he's like, okay, do I show it now? Do I show it now? Ready?
Yeah.
When would be the most awesome time for me to show? Ready? Okay, internal memory cue. Ready? Ready?
No, I totally got the perfect thing.
Yeah. No, you could have like a robot chicken thing where it's like as they're walking through and he just keeps showing the Superman thing. It's like, why are you showing that? Oh, sorry. Never mind. Forget I had that. And then like it gets to the perfect moment. He's like, yes, this is what I lived for. I think that to your point, Tristan, yeah, it is a collection of vignettes, and that really is where Snyder is best as a director, is in the short bursts.
He's a sprinter, not a long distance runner.
Yes. And he's even done some short work that is freaking phenomenal. Like he really excels in the vignette. And I think that he is a very gifted visual director. I think that he is, to your point, in terms of sprinting, very gifted in terms of his storytelling. Justice League, he earned the right to have his 4-hour indulgent cut here. But it's not...
That's such a perfect word for it.
Thank you.
Because as much as I love Zack Snyder's Justice League, it is so indulgent. It is so like...
Yes. This is what it looks like when somebody is given no restraints whatsoever at all. Where it's like, do whatever you want to, however long you want to do it. Yeah, we're lucky it wasn't a 6-hour cut. But I think that what's amazing about Zack Snyder's Justice League is that it does come together. And by the end of it, I'm totally on board. And I love the way it resolves. This is, with the exception of the unfairly maligned Sucker Punch, this is the best ending of a Zack Snyder film. I love this ending because this is the type of ending you have where it's self-contained, it's all resolved, but there's a little more. The one thing with this that I will always fault it for is the adding footage when Affleck is obviously not keeping himself in the same type of shape.
Yeah.
And it just does not come together at the end when he's talking with Martian Manhunter.
No.
Yeah,
completely
I didn't
unkneaded.
Didn't
it was
need
so
that
weird.
whatsoever. Well, what that felt like was Snyder trying to bait the hook and say, hey, if you love this enough, they might let the Snyderverse continue. And it was
originally,
never going to happen.
He wanted to do a green, that was,
Right.
It wasn't supposed to be Martian Manhunter, it was supposed to be Green Lantern. And he actually filmed it upon a green screen in his driveway with Green Lantern. And WB threw down the hammer and said, no, we told you no. You shot this on your own accord. It's still a no. We have plans for Green Lantern. Stop screwing with us. We've given you your Snyder cut.
But look at how well it's gone for them with Green Lantern since and what they've done.
I'm looking forward to the Lantern show. I think that could be good.
It could go either way.
Well, of course
it could go either way.
But okay, so here's the thing though. Like I just don't want to glaze over Snyder cut because there's a lot wrong with it. There's a lot that like there's so much that could be trimmed. Like one thing that really, and this is the a microcosm of the macrocosm. Like if you look at when Bruce first meets Flash and then he throws the batarang, that's the one thing, literally the one thing that the theatrical cut did better than Snyder cut is that it condensed that scene where like as he's throwing the batarang and we're getting into that slow motion electrical storm deal, he's just staring at it for 3 beats too long.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's repeated throughout the movie where you're just like, oh, we're still here.
Yeah.
Oh, this is still going on.
No opposition force to trim up the tiny bits.
Right. There was no producer, there was no editor that clearly went to Zack and said, hey, buddy, maybe we could trim this down. He's like, silence, fool.
Yes.
The internet has given me permission.
You may be producer, but I am executive producer. And I said, this is what shall happen.
Whose movie is this? Zack Snyder's Justice League.
That's
right.
It is now canon, but that is how that conversation went down in the edit bay.
Brilliant.
And so,
just
okay,
points
and
to the
obviously-
slate. It says Zack Snyder's. That's his lead.
I'm sorry, what's the title of this movie?
That's what I'm saying. That's what he's every time.
It's the
Simpsons.
Simpsons. It's the Simpsons meme again. Don't make me tap the sign. It just has the little sign, Zack Snyder's Justice League.
So there's so much wrong with it. I mean, it could be cut down, it could be trimmed, and I'm fine with the 4 hours, honestly, which I never thought I'd say out loud, but I'm fine with it. It's just within the scene itself, you're just like, okay, this can be tightened, this could be trimmed down, and like the Lois Lane and Martha Kent scene was ruined.
Yes,
by the Martian Manhunter
completely agree.
reveal.
Completely agree.
You robbed them of a fantastic moment. That was a beautiful moment, and you robbed Lois of it.
Agree.
And also on top of that, like Ezra Miller's interpretation of Flash is just freaking weird. It's
weird in the sense of what Eddie Redmayne did with Newt Scamander in Fantastic Beasts, where you're like, you're making choices, but I don't know if these are the right choices for an audience to like you.
And at that time, like, it was really in vogue to be autistic coded. And I think that's clearly what they were going for with Flash. And that's very much not how he was in the comics or in in any other kind of portrayal.
Sounds like somebody's gatekeeping.
Oh, geez. And then you have Kal-El, no, so that everything and everyone was firing on all cylinders.
Yes. There are, like you said, there are moments. I think if you just went through and you picked the little moments to trim, you have a 3.5 hour movie right there. And then it's just the littlest bit to get it down to 3 hours 10 from that.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to cut the whole thing down. I'm just saying, you could pull back a little bit.
Yeah, it's not, it needs to be 4 hours. It can be an enjoyable 4 hours. Like if, look at the extended Lord of the Rings movies. Like that's more content, but it's not like, we just threw more at it.
Except for Return of the King.
Okay, well, but
there you go.
the grand scheme is, though, I think we're all comfortable watching longer content if it's actually full of, I'm really glad they didn't have to cut this scene. I mean, how many times have we watched extras and we're like, oh man, that, why is that on the cutting room floor? If you just had an extra 5 minutes, I mean, I just picked up the Blu-ray version of Project Hail Mary, and I know it has some deleted scenes on it. I've heard talk of it had a 4 hour first cut. I never want to see that because I don't. There's having all the content and there's having a watchable movie, and you got to have it in the right way.
And I know that you guys know this, but whenever that gets released into the media and into the blogosphere, it's always just like, apparently there was a 4 hour cut of Hail Mary. Like, no, it was the assembly cut.
Right.
Like that's like so many people just don't understand how editing works, where it's just, you take literally the kitchen sink, I shouldn't say literally, but you take the kitchen sink, everything that was shot, and you just lay it down. Lay it down.
There was originally a more than 3 hour cut of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles that John Hughes and Paul Hirsch watched. They went and they had lunch and they said, okay, let's turn it into a comedy and cut it down. And
and you got to kill your darlings. You got to kill them all.
Which
and
is
unless
why
you're Steven Soderbergh, because Soderbergh will edit on the day. Like he'll shoot on Monday, edit Monday night, and then he'll show everybody what he shot on Monday, and then he'll do that again on Tuesday, and then he has the movie by Friday. The man's insane. Anyway, okay, so we're coming up on the hour mark.
Yes.
These movies are so long. There's so much stuff to talk
3 hours to go. Take your break now, folks.
Yes. But Darren, I want to give any quick emphasis on quick final thoughts on BVSUE and ZSJL.
Stop right now. I just want to say, I really give it to Batman v Superman. Again, that opening, I finally put it in context.
BVSUE?
Shush now. No, but not since Back to the Future 2, where we got a second view of something we had already seen, and it did, but to the 10th degree. Like, I think it did it so
one
well.
One note on that is that like somebody actually matched up Man of Steel and
I've seen that.
And like and Batman v Superman, and like even the laser
BVSEDR.
I tried to avoid it for you, but like they matched up the laser blast from their eyes perfectly. Like it's the same content. It's the same.
Same director, so I'd hope so. But
well,
yes.
yeah, but like it's the same.
They went
scene.
the extra mile. Yeah,
they went the extra mile and just reused that same content from a different angle. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it makes me think of the helicopter crashing near Nick Fury that matches up with the Incredibles and Frozone and all this, which I guess here though there. But all that to say, yeah, I mean
where's my super
these movies were fun in their regards that they're really the product of what you get from a DC movie in the age of Marvel. Like, these are such products of that. It cannot be understated. These movies would not exist like this if Marvel didn't have its 10-year rise leading up to. It definitely has its imprints on it, for good and for ill. But that's why these feel so different, and not just because they're more ensemble based, but they, it's such a different vibe than the Dark Knight trilogy, than any of the pairings of Batman before this. But Batman works in an ensemble. He does. Sometimes he works better as a side character that pops in to shoot people with guns. But so that's all I have to say.
Guns attached to a vehicle, which clearly don't count, Mr. Moser. Okay.
Munitions.
I will point out that in the Geneva Convention, as long as you fire a .50 caliber at equipment, if a person gets in the way, it doesn't count as a war crime. I just want to point that out.
All right. So Darren, what rating are you? How many burned batarangs in criminals are you giving BVSUE and ZS jail?
I hate you so much. No, gosh, I'm gonna give them both 4s. They're great movies to enjoy. When I have a free month, I enjoy Zack Snyder's Justice League. No, it's. I still remember the first time I watched it. I watched the black and white version and just let it wash over me, and it was really fun. It was really enjoyable.
Serious nerd cred for watching that in the black
and white.
I do a
director discussion podcast, Tristan. And I'm not worried about my nerd cred. Jeez, it's double 4 for me.
Fair, very fair, Darren. Very fair. I'll go ahead and presume it's my turn. So for my turn, I will say that for BVSUE, it's a marked improvement over BVS. But it still could have been 2.5 to 2.45 because there is still stuff that's indulgent here that really is not necessary. I'll point to something in the very beginning. We go from this absolutely incredible opening sequence to kids diving, somewhere in the Indian Ocean for kryptonite, right? And it creates this sudden momentum shift. Whereas if we went straight from Bruce looking up to Lois in the desert to showing Superman doing a good thing and saving her with his powers and going, oh, well, here's the flip side of the destructive power of Superman. We go straight from seeing Batman, seeing him, the only context he has is he's this godly, powerful thing that's a threat to civilization and life as he knows it, to, oh, look, he's doing it on a small scale. He's not a monster. You get this immediate flip. And Luthor even has the line where it's like, oh, we found a huge chunk of this in the Indian Ocean. That's all I need. I don't need to see them actually get the stuff in the Indian Ocean. That scene's not necessary. And I think that's the type of thing where, yes, the Ultimate Edition is overlong, but you cut the Knightmare, you cut showing the other metahumans, you cut the thing in the Indian Ocean. I've already saved you 15 minutes. And that's 15 minutes is a lot of screen time, guys. You know that. So I think what it is Snyder is his own worst enemy because he has a lot of terrific ideas, and on their own, they work really well. If I take the Knightmare and I pull it out and I show it on its own, it's fantastic. But then it breaks the rhythm of the movie overall. And I know there are probably Snyder fans listening to this that are yelling at me, through the speakers or whatever. I can't hear you. Sorry. And that's just,
if they could
that's just
read,
my take. Yeah, I'd be in a lot of trouble right now. But I will say 4 stars for BVSUE, which compared to what I felt about the theatrical edition, trust me, is a massive upgrade. Massive upgrade. And then ZSJL, I give 4.5 stars simply because it's 4 and then half star because, man, I long to live to the point where somebody says, you know what? You screwed that up pretty bad. I'm going to let you do whatever you want. And Snyder showed up and he went, whatever I want. And they went, yes. And he went, all right, go for it, buddy. Go out there.
Including a, wait. Okay. So what was the name of his zombie movie? It was terrible.
Oh, Army of the Dead. It was not terrible. I enjoyed it. So shush.
So Army of the Dead, the shooting, you can clearly see, like when we get the Knightmare scenario in Justice
Dawn
League.
of the Dead.
Oh. No. It was Dawn. He did Dawn of the Dead earlier in his career.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
Yep. Army of the Dead
had
was
the
his
word
Netflix
dead
thing.
name.
Yes.
Army of the Dead. You can clearly see that when he did the Knightmare scenario in Justice League where Joker's there and Deadshot's there. Not Deadshot. Poop.
Yeah. Not poop either. Now that you said, now it's Deathstroke. That's the guy.
Deathstroke.
Yeah.
And like Deathstroke is there and Mira is there with her accent going in and out and Cyborg. And you have that scene. It's clearly shot in the style of Army of the Dead.
Oh, yes.
Because like he's experimenting with it. He's just like,
It's
I'm
the
on
same
this kick
year.
right now. Yeah.
They made it the same year. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you can tell he was just like, he's like, no, I'm into this right now.
Yeah.
I forgot what point I was making, but we're moving on. So
that is your turn.
4 stars for me, for both of them. Same as you, Darren. I love these movies. They're filled with flaws left and right. I am not trying to glaze over them. I'm not trying to whitewash them. They're filled with flaws, but the stuff that works is so much fun. It's so good. It's so much fun. I will continue to watch them over and over again. I really wish we would get like a comic book version or an animated version of what he wanted to do. I really wish we could get it in some shape or form because we're clearly never going to get the movie versions of them. Everybody needs to just make their peace with that. But if we could get it in, freaking hell, I would take an audio podcast of the other versions just to get something. But regardless, neither here nor there. So we've been going on for over an hour, which I think is a mark of restraint considering how long these movies are. So yes. Darren, what are we doing next week?
Next week, we're changing it up with the Lego Batman movie from 2017. Next on Houselights. First try.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.